"Ha, no, don't come near my tomatoes," one woman shouted. "My pepper will spoil if you breathe on it," another hissed. Once upon a time, in the peaceful village of Umuchim, where the morning sun kissed the red earth like an old friend, lived a girl whose beauty was the pride of the entire community. Onyinye. Her presence alone could silence a noisy compound. Her skin, it shone like the golden glow on fresh palm wine, catching light even in the shade. Her laughter, sweet and soft, drifted through the air like the melody of a village flute, played by an expert hand. Children chased the sound just to hear it again. Elders nodded in admiration whenever she passed, and young men practically lived on the path beside her home, pretending to fetch water or even buy pepper, all just to greet her. Onyinye wasn't simply blessed with physical beauty. She also had a tender spirit, a gentle heart, and a humility that made her even more radiant. She sold palm kernels at the market, always greeting buyers with warmth that made them return even when they didn't need anything. People often joked that even her shadows walked like loyalty. But Onyinye, she didn't become who she was by chance. She was raised by two parents whose love shaped her like a potter shapes clay. Her mother, Nneka, was the quiet strength of their home, a woman known across Umuchim for her kindness and wisdom. She carried patience in her eyes and sweetness in her voice. Nneka often said, "A beautiful face is a gift, but a beautiful heart is a choice." It was she who taught Onyinye how to speak with respect, how to treat others with gentleness, and how to walk humbly, even when the world praised her. Her father, Okonkwo, was one of the most respected palm wine tappers in the village, strong, hardworking, and deeply protective of his family. He adored his daughter. To him, Onyinye was Nwamoma, his precious jewel. He often boasted, half jokingly, half serious, that the ancestors carved Onyinye from the hands of angels. Under his disciplined but loving guidance, she learned honesty, courage, and the importance of staying true to herself. Onyinye was their only daughter, their only child, but they never for once pampered her. Together, Nneka and Okonkwo created a home filled with laughter, warmth, and moral strength. A home where Onyinye grew not only in beauty, but in character. However, where beauty and goodness shine the brightest, envy often lurks quietly in the shadow. Among Onyinye's few close friends was Chika, a girl whose smile never seemed to reach her eyes. To everyone else, Chika and Onyinye were inseparable, laughing together, sharing secrets, and walking to the market arm in arm. But deep down, hidden beneath false smiles and fake encouragement, Chika harbored a burning jealousy. It wasn't always this way. In the beginning, Chika admired Onyinye genuinely, but as the months passed and Onyinye grew more admired, more noticed, and more celebrated, something bitter and ugly began to take root in Chika's heart. She would watch villagers praise Onyinye's beauty and kindness, and each compliment felt like a needle in her chest. She hated how people looked through her and straight at Onyinye. She hated how Onyinye didn't even try to be noticed, yet everyone saw her. She hated how effortless her grace was, how she shined without trying. And slowly, envy wrapped itself around Chika like a snake, squeezing tighter each day until she could no longer hide it from herself. One particular night, While the entire village slept under the gentle hum of crickets, Chika lay awake, staring into the darkness, her thoughts restless, heavy with resentment. Must everything belong to her? She whispered, her voice trembling with the bitterness she had tried to bury for too long. In that whispered question, something snapped. A dark idea, small at first, like a seed, began to grow in her mind. And envy, the cruel farmer that it is, watered the seed with every hateful thought she entertained. Slowly, dangerously, a wicked plan took shape. A plan she believed would finally dim Onyinye's brightness. A plan that would stain her golden reputation. A plan that would change everything. But Chika, she didn't know. She was not just toying with Onyinye's fate. She was tampering with destiny itself. And the consequences would haunt them both in ways they could never imagine. The moon hung low over Umuchim that night, glowing like a watchful eyes. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that made kerosene lamps struggle to stay lit. Onyinye had just finished arranging the palm kernels she would take to the market the next morning, when she heard a soft knock at the door. "Onyinye, Biko, come and open the door, it's me." Chika's voice floated in, sounding unusual sweet, too sweet. When Onyinye opened the door, Chika stood there with a calabash bowl wrapped carefully in a cloth. Steam escaped from the edges, carrying the unmistakable aroma of fresh ophora, rich and inviting. "I came to greet you," Chika said, with a smile that felt glued to her face. "Mama cooked too much, and I said, who else deserves this if not my dear friend Onyinye?" Onyinye's heart melted instantly. She welcomed her in, touched by what she believed was genuine kindness. "Ah, Chika, you didn't have to now. You know I love Ofeoha." Chika watched her closely, too closely, as she set the bowl down. Beneath the surface of the delicious soup, hidden deep within the meat and spices, was a dark charm created by the infamous herbalist feared across villages. Nwanyi Ochammiri, a woman said to have a heart as cold as river stones and eyes that have seen more wickedness than daylight. It was whispered that she never lifted a finger unless the request came from envy or anger, and Chika had gone to her willingly. The charm was simple: humiliation. It was designed to twist beauty into disgust, to make Onyinye repulsive to those who once adored her. A slow walking course hidden in warmth, disguised in sweetness. Onyinye fetched 2 wooden spoons and insisted that both of them eat. But Chika, she refused quickly. "No, I ate already, my friend," she lied with a nervous laugh. "It's for you, you deserve to enjoy." Poor Onyinye. She didn't notice the way Chika's hands trembled slightly, or how her eyes darted to the bowl, and how she held her breath as Onyinye lifted the first spoonful. With the trust as innocent as morning dew, Onyinye ate. Every swallow was a step deeper into betrayal. After eating, she hugged Chika and thanked her sincerely. "Ah, my good friend, I really enjoyed this meal. Thank you so much." Those words stabbed Chika's already trembling conscience. But jealousy, is a stubborn poison. Once swallowed, it blinds even the kindest heart. That night, long after Chika had left, Onyinye lay on her mat, but rest refused to come. A strange heaviness gathered in her throat, as though someone had tied a stone inside her chest. Her mouth tasted bitter, sharp and unpleasant, like herbs soaked too long in water. "Maybe I'm just tired," she murmured, rubbing her neck. But the bitterness grew stronger, stranger and darker. She tossed and turned, sleep slipping through her fingers like sand. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were filled with shadows, whispers she could not understand, and faces she couldn't even see. By morning, the world had changed. Onyinye woke up with a strange dryness in her mouth. She sat up, yawned, and the smell hit her. A harsh, choking odour she had never smelled before. She froze. It couldn't be from her. She turned away, but the odour followed. "Chimo," she cried, covering her mouth. She ran outside, brushing her teeth until her gums hurt. She chewed bitter kola. She rinsed with salt water. She even washed her mouth with warm palm wine, an old remedy her mother once taught her. But the smell didn't leave. It clung to her. It clung like a curse. Her reflection in the water bowl looked normal, but something inside her felt trembling wrong. Onyinye didn't know it yet, but the charm had taken root, and the girl who once drew people like bees to honey was about to become the one people avoided like a plague. At the first light, Onyinye stepped out into the village, hoping, praying that the strange odour would have faded overnight. But the moment she greeted her neighbor, Mama Aluchuku, with her unusual cheerful smile, the woman stiffened, covering her nose with both hands, and staggered backward. "Chineke, Onyinye, what is that smell?" she cried. Onyinye froze. The same heaviness in her chest returned. "Mama, are you talking to me?" Mama Aluchuku didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her expression twisted in disgust. And that told Onyinye everything. From that morning, the fall began. The villagers who once greeted Onyinye with joy and admiration now avoided her like a curse. People crossed the path when she approached. Children who once ran to her arms now fled behind their mothers. Market women whispered loudly, not even pretending to hide their comments. "Beauty is deceitful," one scoffed. "It's always the fine ones that heed the dirtiest thing," another sneered. She pretended to be perfect. Now the truth has come out, someone muttered. At the market, the humiliation was sharper than a knife. Her customers, people who once fought to buy from her, turned their faces away as if her presence polluted the air. "Ha, no, don't come near my tomatoes," one woman shouted. "My pepper will spoil if you breathe on it," another hissed. "I told you people, all that beauty was covering something rotten," a man added with a wicked laugh. Onyinye tried to defend herself, but each word she spoke only made people recoil more violently. The shame was unbearable. Her heart, once full of confidence, began to crack. Then it shattered, piece by painful piece. At home, Onyinye withdrew into silence. Tears became her nightly companion. She cried until her pillows were soaked. She cried until her eyes were swollen. She cried until her mother, Nneka, sat beside her, strewing her hair with trembling hands. "My daughter," Nneka whispered, "tell me what troubles you. Who has done this to you?" But Onyinye had no answers. Only pain, only confusion, and only shame that felt too heavy for her young heart. She tried everything, brushing, chewing herbs, drinking bitter concoctions, but the odour clung stubbornly, like a shadow mocking her every breath. She stopped going to gatherings, stopped attending moonlight plays, stopped visiting the stream, and even stopped smiling. The once vibrant Onyinye became a ghost in her own home. At night, she prayed for morning to come differently, for a miracle, for a sign. But the dawn always betrayed her. The curse woke up with her. Meanwhile, hiding behind gossiping crowds and watching from corners, Chika's cold heart swelled with satisfaction. She saw Onyinye's shoulders slump, her eyes lose their glow, her steps slow with shame. Good, Chika murmured to herself. Now she knows how it feels not to shine. Each day, Onyinye suffered, while Chika's smile only grew sharper. She finally felt notice, finally felt equal, finally felt seen. But she did not know the truth, that charms fueled by jealousy do not obey gently. They listen to darkness, not the one who sent them, and they always demand more than what was asked. The charm Chika planted in the soup had begun its work, but it had not finished. What was coming would be far worse than embarrassment, far worse than mouth odor, far beyond what Chika imagined. And soon, very soon, the consequences of envy would rise like a storm over Umuchim. Rumors traveled faster than Harmattan wind in Umuchim, and Onyinye's fall became the village's newest entertainment. What began as quiet whispers turned into loud gossip, and before long, entire stories twisted like burnt ropes, spread from compound to compound. Some villagers claimed Onyinye had unknowingly eaten food meant for the gods, and that they were punishing her through her breath. Others insisted she must have offended a wandering spirit during one of her journeys to the stream. And then there were those who spoke with smug confidence, saying, "Did we not warn her? Beauty without humility invites misfortune. This is her pride fighting back." And the most ridiculous rumor was that she had rejected too many suitors, and the ancestors had grown angry with her. To them, her suffering was a spiritual slap, a warning to every young woman who dared to shine too brightly. Even the elders, men who once smiled when Onyinye walked by, now sat beneath the iroko tree, shaking their heads. "One should never allow beauty to climb to the head," one said, adjusting his red cap. "This is a lesson," another added, "a reminder that pride burns weaker than firewood." But none of them knew the truth. None of them understood that Onyinye had never carried pride in her heart, only kindness. Inside her home, Onyinye struggled to survive the weight of her new reality. Every day felt like walking through a storm without shelter. Her mother, Nneka, refused to give up. She prepared herbal concoctions, bitter drinks Onyinye forced down, hoping for relief. She visited the local priest who offered prayers, insisting that an unseen force was at work. But nothing changed, not even a breath of improvement. Okonkwo, her father, grew restless, pacing, muttering, staring helplessly at his daughter, as though he could fight the cause with the strength of his muscles alone. But even he, a man of great faith, was beginning to crumble under the weight of the uncertainty. Onyinye's mind drifted between despair and numbness. She stopped eating properly. She barely slept. Sometimes she felt as if her soul was sinking into a deep, lonely pit. She wondered if fate itself had turned against her, if perhaps she was born to be mocked, not admired. She did not know that the real cause of her suffering wasn't fate. It wasn't the gods. It wasn't the spirits. It wasn't even her pride. It was betrayal, quiet, cold, intentional betrayal from a heart she once trusted. Meanwhile, in her own heart, Chika found no peace. At first, she felt victorious. Each time Onyinye walked past the marketplace, shunned and humiliated, Chika's lip curved into a small, satisfied smile. But nights were not so kind. Night after night, she woke up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding like thunder in her chest. She saw Onyinye in her dreams, standing alone in darkness, crying, calling her name, asking, "Why? Why, Chika? What did I do to you?" Sometimes, Onyinye's shadow stretched towards her like an accusation. Chika began to dread sleeping. She avoided mirrors. She avoided silence. During the day, she watched Onyinye from afar, watched her shoulders sag deeper, her steps drag slower, her eyes lose their spark, and the sight pierced something inside her she had tried to bury. Guilt, fear and regret. But even as guilt gnawed at her conscience, Chika's lip remained sealed. She feared the consequences of confessing. She feared being cast out. She feared the wrath of Nwanyi Ochamiri, the herbalist who had warned her. Once you begin, you cannot undo what you set in motion. And so, Chika stayed silent. Silent as Onyinye suffered. Silent as rumors sprayed like poison. Silent as our own hearts darkened. But silence, like secrets, does not last forever. And soon, Chika's guilt would demand a price far greater than she expected. The sun had barely risen when Nneka, Onyinye's mother, made a desperate decision. Her daughter was fading, her laughter gone, her eyes dull, her spirit broken. Enough was enough. So, she grabbed Onyinye's hand firmly and marched her through the village, ignoring the curious stares and whispers trailing behind them. They stopped at the shrine of Ezemo, the revered priest of Umuchim, a man whose insight was feared as much as it was respected. His compound smelled of incense, charcoal and ancient secrets. Cowrie shells hung from the doorway, swaying even without wind. Ezemo stepped out slowly, dressed in white robe, his painted face unreadable. The moment his eyes landed on Onyinye, his expression tightened into a deep frown. He hummed, shaking his head. This is no sickness of the body. He walked around Onyinye 3 times, his feet moving lightly on the earth as he chanted words older than the oldest Iroko tree. He shook his sacred beads, each rattle echoing like a warning from the ancestors. After a long, heavy silence, he stopped. He sighed a deep, sorrowful sound. "What pushes this child," he said gravely, "is not natural." Onyinye stiffened. Not natural. It is a charm, Ezemo said firmly. A charm placed deliberately. A charm fed with envy. A charm cooked by someone very close to you. The word tightened beneath Onyinye's feet. Her heart pounded violently. Close to me? But why? Who? But the priest only raised his hand for silence. There are truths you are not ready to hear under the sun, Ezemo said. Come back at midnight. The spirits of truth do not speak in daylight. So, that night, the moon hid behind thick clouds, as if afraid to witness what was about to unfold. Onyinye sat trembling before the sacred fire, her mother clenching her hand tightly. Ezemo emerged from the shadows, carrying a clay pot filled with sacred herbs. He sprinkled them into the fire. Sparks hissed, the flames rose sharply, swaying like a living creature. Spirit of truth, he intoned, appear and speak. Reveal the hand that brought this suffering upon this innocent child. The ground vibrated slightly, the air grew heavy. The fire expanded into a tall spiral of blazing red and gold. Onyinye held her breath. Inside the flames, shapes began to form. First blurry, then clearer. A silhouette, a face, a girl bending over a pot of soup, a hand dropping something into it, something dark, something forbidding. Onyinye leaned forward, eyes wide with fear. The flames twisted again, and the image sharpened. It was Chika, her friend, her sister in laughter, the girl who braided her hair, the girl who visited her every day. Onyinye's whole body went numb. No, she whispered. It can't be her, Chika, my Chika. The fire roared louder, as if to silence her denial. The image remained clear, unmistakable. Chika's face filled the flames, her smile twisted with jealousy. Onyinye's chest tightened painfully. Her legs buckled beneath her, and she fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her cheeks like a burning rivers. Why? Onyinye cried. What did I ever do to her? Why would she do this to me? Ezemo's voice was solemn. Envy, he said. A poison deadlier than any charm. She sought your downfall, but she does not understand that such evil always returns to its sender. Onyinye bowed her head, sobbing uncontrollably. Her heart felt stabbed by 1,000 needles. The betrayal was deeper than the cause itself. Inside her chest, something broke. A trust that could never be rebuilt. A sisterhood that had turned into a trap. A love that had become her greatest wound. The fire cracked softly, as if mourning with her, and the night swallowed her cries. But little did she know, this revelation was only the beginning. The storm was just beginning to rise. The next morning, Onyinye approached Chika with slow, heavy steps, each one weighed with heartbreak. When she spoke, her voice quivered like a calabash caught in a storm. Her swollen eyes told the story of a long night drenched in tears and confusion. Chika's breath hinged the moment their eyes met, but pride forced her to strengthen her shoulders. She denied everything, her voice firm, but her hands trembling at her sides. Onyinye, Chika said, I'm innocent. I can't hurt my friend. You are just like a sister to me. Why will I hurt you? Please believe me, I'm not lying to you. I'm saying the truth. Please, I can't hurt you. But before Onyinye could speak again, Ezemo stepped forward from behind her. His presence alone silenced the entire compound. In his hands, he held a small clay ball wrapped tightly in red cloth. The charm, the wicked seed Chika had planted, the proof of betrayal. The sight hit Chika like a blow. Her knees buckled. She crashed to the ground in a trembling heap, her eyes wide with terror. The truth she had tried to bury now rose before the whole village. People rushed from all corners, forming a wide circle around them. Murmurs turned to gasps and gasps to outrage. The priest's voice rang clear as he revealed the truth. Onyinye's suffering was not the work of gods or wandering spirits, but the jealousy of her closest friend. The words sliced through the air and through Chika's dignity. In a heartbeat, Chika's world collapsed. The same villagers who once praised her beauty now looked at her with disgust. Women shielded their daughters, whispering warnings. Men shook their heads in disappointment. She became a living proverb, the friend whose heart turned black with envy. Shame filled her like a heavy cloth she could not remove. But the charm's wickedness had a price. Ezemo warned her that such evil always returned to its sender. And the backlash came swiftly. Chika's nights filled with haunting nightmares. Onyinye crying, calling her name from a dark void. Even in daylight, whispers followed her, taunting her with guilt. Her body broke out into rashes. Her steps attracted misfortune, and her spirit grew weaker each passing day. Food lost its flavor. Her laughter died. Sleep refused to touch her eyes. Finally, crushed by fear and guilt, Chika crawled to Onyinye's hut one hot afternoon. She didn't walk, she crawled, dragging herself through the dust like someone seeking salvation. When she reached Onyinye's hut, she grabbed her feet and wept uncontrollably. Her tears soaked the earth as she begged for forgiveness. Her voice cracked and drenched in regret. Onyinye, my friend, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I allowed jealousy to control me. Please, I'm deeply sorry. Onyinye stood silently, shaking. The betrayal had wounded her like a deep cut that refused to heal. Pain and pity fought fearlessly inside her heart. But beneath the hurt, compassion still flickered. Small but unextinguished. With a trembling breath, she reached out and placed her hand gently on Chika's bowed head. I forgive you, she whispered. Her forgiveness didn't erase the pain. It did not excuse the betrayal, but it freed her spirit from the chains of bitterness. The villagers watched in surprise. That single act of grace, quiet, humble and powerful, marked the first true step towards Onyinye's healing. The shrine of Umuchim was silent that morning, the kind of silence that carried both fear and hope. Onyinye knelt before the sacred altar, her hands trembling on her lap. Ezemo stood over her, his eyes closed as he murmured ancient incantations. The air was thick with the scent of burning leaves and river herbs, an aroma that made the skin tingle. He dipped a carved wooden spoon into the bowl of concentrated herbs he had gathered from the rivers of spirits. The liquid shimmered faintly as though touched by the ancestors themselves. Gently, he brushed the mixture across Onyinye's sleeve. A sudden warmth rushed through her, like fire and comfort woven together. Her chest tightened, then slowly loosened as if something was being pulled out of her. A weight she never knew was so heavy. Then it happened. The foul odor that had destroyed her life, her joy, and her confidence vanished. It lifted from her like smoke caught by the breeze, melting into the morning sky. Onyinye gasped. She covered her mouth, breathing in disbelief, then burst into tears, deep, shaking sobs of relief she had been holding for months. She was free. By noon, the news had spread like wildfire. Villagers poured into her mother's compound, their faces filled with shock, guilt, and amazement. Some held her hands tightly, apologizing through tears for abandoning her when she needed them most. Others stood at a distance, unable to meet her eyes, weighed down by the shame of their own cruelty. But Onyinye forgave them all in her heart. Suffering had carved something new inside her. Strength, wisdom, and a kind of beauty no mirror could reflect. She had walked through humiliation, betrayal, and loneliness, and yet she rose again with grace. The once celebrated beauty of Umuchim had become something greater, a symbol of resilience. Stories of her restoration traveled beyond her village. In marketplaces, elders told her tale to remind young women that true beauty is never just on the surface. Mothers warned their children about envy marked as friendship. Travelers spoke of her as the girl who faced darkness and still found her light. And as for Chika, though Onyinye had forgiven her, the bond they once shared could never be rebuilt. Some wounds heal, but they have leave marks that serve as quiet reminders. Chika lived with her guilt, while Onyinye walked forward with her peace. When Onyinye looked at her reflection now, she saw more than glowing skin and bright eyes. She saw a woman reborn, a woman strengthened by trials, a woman whose beauty came not from just her face, but from her heart. Her beauty returned, but this time it shone from within, steady and unshakable. And the eyes of Umuchim, Onyinye was no longer just the village beauty. She had become its lesson, its pride, and its living testimony that no charm, no matter how dark, could destroy a soul filled with grace. Hi listeners, we have finally come to the end of today's tale. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you have not done so. And see you in our next tale. Bye.